So I'm back in Photoshop with my image, and before I go any further, let me look at my image size. All right, so that's pretty big, 36 by 24 inches, but notice it's only 72 pixels per inch. If I unclick Resample Image, you see how all three of these are now linked. I always want this to be 300 ppi, and that's actually pretty small. So let me show you a little trick. I'm going to make that 300 ppi, and now I'm going to resize this. I'm going to go to Image, Canvas Size, and I'm changing this now, and I'll do it from the middle, so it's going to expand from the middle. I think I'm going to make my width, um, let's see, I'll make it 11, and I'll make my height 14. So if I click on this in Apple minus, you can see it's actually significantly larger. And you might be thinking, well, why make it bigger if you have your images this size? Well, remember the bottle goes down, so even though the image is going this way, I think I want a portrait orientation. So I think what I want to do now is resize all my images, and let me show you how to do that quickly and easily. If I come over here and I click on, and I already have my move tool right there, you'll see at the top of my options palette that show transform controls is selected. Make sure that is selected. That enables you to see this bounding box around the image. If you unclick it, the bounding box disappears. So I'm going to click that. And now I'm going to select all my layers by holding down the shift key and grabbing all my layers. And I want to make these a little bit smaller. So I'm going to come to a corner. And what's really, really, really important is when you do this, three reallys, if you don't hold down the shift key and I drag, it will warp your image and mess it up. I don't want that. Instead, what I want to do is hold down the shift key, and no matter how big or how small I make this, it always keeps it in proportion. So I'm just going to eyeball this, but I think I like that size right there, because remember, I'm going to spread these out, and now it's time for me to start playing around with what I have. So I'm going to click on the first layer, so only that layer is selected, and move, oops, check that, and move this up, and you can see that I can start to manipulate all these. So I have to individually click on each layer, and remember, you can move in so you can see the details. And I'm not one who's necessarily that interested in having everything line up perfectly. I kind of like to see the imperfections. I also like to occasionally rotate things. So for example, maybe I'll go back to this image and go to the corner and rotate a little bit like that. For example, I feel like that fits better with what I have. So instead of just it all being straight, you might need to modify a few of them. Just remember to click the checkbox when you're done. And I'm just going to keep going and deciding, how do these fit together? I might not see all of everything, but I kind of like how that looks. So move down here. And this one definitely needs to be rotated, so I will rotate the, oopsie, I just rotated, I didn't rotate it. But that looks about right. And the order you do this in is going to make a tremendous difference. I think what's interesting about this particular exercise is that I give this to all my students to do, and everybody comes up with a slightly different version. Just because you all have the same images doesn't mean you're all going to come up with the same results. And that's the cool thing about art, is that there's more than one solution to every single problem. But see how quickly I can put this together to create something I think pretty interesting. Definitely not your average fantastic bottle, which I think is part of just what makes it so interesting to look at. I keep forgetting to check the checkbox when I'm all done. And you have to kind of decide how you want everything to be situated. Sort of don't like where that is. So I think what I'm going to do is change the layer order on this one. So it's kind of in between. See that? Look at that. Yeah. All right. But try to use all of your images. And there we go. That looks pretty good. Now that I have that, I'm thinking I'm going to select everything again by holding down the shift key. Hold down the shift key and make these a little bit bigger. What I don't want to do is drag it so it's off the page. Like, I want to see all the images, all those imperfections, or in my opinion, I think that makes it better. So I check that. And finally, I'm going to add at the bottom here one more layer. This is the final touches. And I'm going to grab, by mousing down over here, the paint bucket tool right there. Grab the color black, and yeah, that looks a lot better. Maybe a specific color might work for you. I happen to like black with this. So there's my final image. And then of course I would save this as a JPEG and turn this in. Pretty easy.